Hey everybody, welcome to the Dr. Terri Show. Today we are going to have some really interesting conversations about how to navigate when you want a healthier lifestyle with your spouse. So if you are a husband that wants to try to get your wife into the gym, but you don't know how to tell her without her hearing, "You're calling me fat," or if you're a wife that wants to have a healthier lifestyle and you want to purge the house of all the unhealthy snacks and pretzels and Cheetos and Doritos, but you don't quite know how to do that without your husband coming home and going, "Where's the snacks?" This episode is for you. We're talking about how to navigate changing our healthy lifestyles as a team and talking about what legacy do we want to leave behind with our families as a couple. So join us today as we have this really important conversation. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dr. Terri Show. Today we're going to talk about just this dynamic between spouses, especially when it comes to lifestyle changes and healthy lifestyles. And sometimes one spouse is on this health kick and the other one's not. We kind of experienced this a little bit when, I had an injury. I'll confess everybody to my age. I'm 56. So at about 46, 47, I was at the gym, hurt my foot.
The good news is you were exercising when
I was exercising when it happened. But I messed my foot up so bad I had to have 2 surgeries, and the exercise kind of waned a lot. So that, and then also I was transitioning through perimenopause at the time, so my body was changing, my moods were, everything was just changing. And so he was on his normal healthy kick and I was not. And then, it kind of flipped. But what normally happens is women tend to be kind of the leaders in the household of kind of health. We do the grocery shopping. We kind of make the decisions. Statistically, women are the medical decision makers. They decide when we're going to go to the doctor, when we're not going to go to the doctor, what medicine we're going to get. Typically, I'm talking about the average. This isn't always true, but it's typically true. So a lot of times what we see is women coming, at least into our clinics, or even women just in the household making all these massive changes because they watched a podcast like this, like, oh, we got to get rid of plastic and this, that, and the other. But just kind of talking a little bit about the dynamic, when one spouse is seeing and wanting to make some changes, and the other spouse, they kind of have to drag them along. And I think it's good to have a male-female perspective dialogue about it. Like, what is it? How does it land on the male? Like, what's happening there when the wife is perceivedly trying to tell you what to do or how to live your life? I know
my
that's
favorite term.
His favorite term. Don't tell me what to do. I think your mom must have told you what to do a lot, as she still does, even as an adult. So that perspective, and then, I'd love to share even what it's like from a female perspective. So, but that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Like, what's happening.
So you have people in the audience right now that are either turning this completely off or running to the other room to grab their spouse.
Yeah.
Trying to
and then the spouse turns it off.
Exactly. Why are you dragging me in here for this? I'm trying to do this. Gosh, this is going to be a kind of a tough topic to talk about, but I think we can explore from some different angles and just understand. First and foremost, I think, whoever is bringing it up, whether it's the male or the female in the household, it's understanding why are we talking about this in the first place. And if you saw a podcast or you read a book or can you get the other person to engage in the same information? Right. Because obviously in your case, your example, the wife is doing this for the betterment of the family, right? They're doing it for, hey, because I saw this and I understand this. But many times, the other half didn't see it, didn't read it, didn't listen to the podcast. And so start there. I mean, I would say just start there and understand the information behind why in the world you're actually even suggesting us to do this. Because I don't think that we're not sitting there trying to be adversarial. We're not trying to do something, bad for the family. We're not trying to, drag a situation down. But we also are kind of logical thinkers, and we're like, okay, well, we need to understand why we're actually doing this. So there's that.
That's good.
The information, first of all, you came home and you hear the stories. You can't come home. And I was like, this morning I left and my pantry was full of this, and I came home today and it's all gone, and I don't have anything to eat. And I'm very hungry. And so when that happens, guys, you come home from work and you're like, I have an immediate need. I'm starving, and I go to the pantry, and all says it's gone. How do you think that's going to start? How do you think that's going to start the whole? We're going to get healthy business from day one, from hour one. He's going to be like, screw this. Yeah. This is ridiculous. Because that immediate step was not taken properly. Right. So.
God, that's so good. There's so many ways we can go with this. Like one of the first thing that comes to my mind. I love what you just said, because it reminds me of learning about the worth it equation for men, that men kind of have this subtle program running in the back of their minds. Is it worth it? What is it gonna, how much energy is it gonna take from me? How much energy is it gonna take to do this thing or not do this thing?
And what's the result?
What's results gonna be producing? What problem are we trying to solve? So men are kind of always doing this thing in the back of their head. So it's give me the why behind it. Like, why do all of a sudden all the chips gone and I can't get an immediate need, fixed? In the case of, we just remodeled our kitchen a couple of years ago, and I didn't even build a pantry in the new build. And he's like, where are my snacks going to go? So there's a little drawer.
Pretty healthy snacks. Other than Flaming Hot Cheetos, I'd say.
Yeah, we don't do Flaming Hot Cheetos anymore.
We might.
He does at work.
Every now and again.
It's not good. But for women, when the reverse is true, I'll tell you how it lands for women. If like the husband is trying to initiate healthy changes in the family, or maybe you want her to start exercising, whether with you or who cares, just exercise kind of thing. It's important. You just said it's important for, if the tables are turned, that the women kind of explain the why. Well, it's important for women, guys, that she doesn't feel criticized. Criticism is the big thing for women. So when my spouse says, hey, did you go to the gym today? What a woman hears is, you need to go to the gym today.
You're looking a little fluffy.
There's a little criticism behind that. And most times men, that's not what your intention is. It's really, just about, wanting to be healthier.
Well, and also just wanting to encourage, right? Trying to hey, just, let's face it, especially in this day and age, being healthy, would you say earlier, being healthy is not, it's simple, but it's not easy. It's not easy, right? So
it's a simple concept, but it's not always easy to do. Yeah.
Correct. And so, the guys automatically think, well, if I just, give her a little encouragement, because you need a partner. You need a partner. You need a workout partner to, go to the gym and work out, and you're going to do better type of thing. So that's how guys think. And
guys criticize each other at joking, and it's okay.
Right.
But girls don't, we don't do that to each other. We lie to each other. You look amazing. You don't need to go to the gym today. We kind of lie. Yeah, exactly.
You gained weight? I thought you lost weight.
You look amazing. Stop it. You go wear that dress every day, and you're thinking, that dress looks terrible on her. We're just not going to be honest about it. I know it's terrible.
But that's how honest.
It's just how we're designed. But so the first thing for men is the why behind it. What results can be produced? This first thing for women, if this conversation's happening, just from my chair, is wording it in a way that it's not a criticism, or it doesn't feel like a criticism. Gosh, I don't even know how to tell you to do that. That's a tough one.
Ask questions.
Oh, ask questions. That's a good one.
That's the first thing. Do you think that our family is as healthy as it could be?
No, I don't. Do you think that these bright red snacks are good for your body? Like, is this a natural color in nature? This thing that's bright orange?
I don't think so.
But it tastes really, really good. So how do you have those conversations and not create adversarial? Really is what happens is if you're not able to have those conversations and on the same page, and you don't understand what your partner needs to have that conversation, it can become adversarial, and it can actually, I think, create distance.
Absolutely.
Instead of connection. So how can we have the conversation about journeying on this together? So I think it's a you mentioned, opening the pantry and you're starving and there's no snacks. So lately, to encourage healthier snacking when you get home, I've been putting carrots and celery out.
And I like
Who knew that you even like that, But having the conversation of asking, your spouse, all right, I really don't want to have these processed bright orange triangles in the drawer anymore because, I heard on a great podcast that they have so many chemicals in it that they can cause A, B, C, D, and mostly a lot of inflammation. But here's 3 options. Which one would you prefer?
Yeah, that's more of the granular stuff. And honestly, for the audience, I would challenge you to step back from it even further than that. Again, I'm a big picture person, and we talked about that at the beginning. What's the benefit? What's the the effort? What's the upside to this? What's going to be the end result? How is our family going to be better for this? But even stepping back from that and having conversations about longevity in your life, and what do we want what are we trying to leave for our kids? What kind of a legacy are we trying to create for our kids? And I think, unfortunately, nowadays, we are such a instant gratification society that it is all about men and women are not thinking past Friday, right? Let's get to Friday, or maybe even today. Let's get through the weekend, whatever your time frame in your mind. Yeah, because we're and so if you're going to really combat that problem, you got to step back and you got to start asking some bigger questions. That is the idea of, as a man, I'll speak to it from my standpoint, and you can speak to it, from a female standpoint. But as a man, what am I trying to leave for my legacy? What is my legacy in life? Mm-hmm. What am I trying to live a life in such a way that I can grow old and see the grandkids, watch their soccer games, go be involved in their lives, go on camping trips with them, go on hiking trips with them. Well, that doesn't, a lot of our my dad has passed away, as you know, but a lot of parents nowadays are, they see their mom and dad now not doing very well. They're in the nursing home. They're dealing with, it's
kind of the norm. It's
dementia.
Like
yes, right.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that's not how it should be.
It doesn't have to be that way either.
And so if you go, and I find having these conversations with people our age now that do have their parents that are in assisted living homes and things like that, they're dealing with Alzheimer's, dementia, things like that. They're starting to go, I can't do that to my kids. And so they're starting to pay attention now because they know that their parents really didn't take care of themselves or ate, poorly. They didn't exercise. They didn't do hormone optimization. They didn't do nutraceuticals. They didn't do any prevention. They didn't do preventative health care. And so now what do they have? And by the way, it's not just sad that the parents are in the homes, right? Or dealing with dementia, Alzheimer's, things like that. But let's be real. It's expensive. And if you're now in our family, just using generational examples here, if our family now is having difficulty financially because of your parents or my parents, and now it's taking away from our kids, and now it's taking away from our grandkids. I mean, this is where I say you got to step back and take a much bigger picture, take a much bigger perspective in understanding what's really happening, because that didn't happen. Your parents going to, that situation that I was just describing didn't happen overnight.
It didn't happen overnight. It was gradual.
It was very gradual. And so when we have it bringing it full circle to having this conversation, do you think eating Cheetos or whatever, I can't, Cheetos, is that? Doritos, whatever, chips,
bright orange,
falsely colored items.
That taste really good.
That taste really good.
Chemically, that's intentional, by the way, to keep you eating them.
It's addictive chemicals.
Yeah.
But is that in the best interest of our family?
Of what we're trying to produce.
Is that in the best interest of the legacy that we want as a couple to be passed on to our kids and to our grandkids and our great-grandkids?
I love that conversation because, as We have 7. We've got our oldest 2 are married and have 3. So we have 6 grandkids. And then the other ones are various stages.
7 kids, 6 grandkids.
Yeah, I know.
Jeez.
What the heck?
When did this happen?
But and then we have some that are in various stages of new relationships, engaged, things like that. And it's kind of funny. I love this topic because I watch some of our younger kids that are in relationships struggling with these conversations with their significant other or their boyfriend or whatever, because one of them wants to be a little healthier and one of them, But one of the things I learned, this is advice for women. I already gave you guys the advice. Just pay attention. Does it land as criticism? It probably won't to you because criticism sounds different to men than women, but that's a conversation for another day. But for men, and tell me if this rings true or not, but what I've learned is when you speak to a man's ability to protect and provide for his family, that resonates. If it's not about, well, your belt size is 2 sizes bigger than I want. If it's not about something that's, superficial per se, even though maybe in the back of your mind that would be a nice benefit. But if you speak to, I want you to be around for our grandkids and our great king. I want to do this life with you and this journey with you. And speaking to it from that perspective, it's the same way I have the conversation even with men that come into the clinic that are looking at, their hormones. And when I start speaking to all of the disease prevention, that having your hormones optimized, preventing coronary artery disease, heart disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, prostate cancer, those kinds of things, I see them perk up because in their mind, they're like, okay, there's a longevity piece of it. There's the ability for me to stay here and continue to provide for my family that resonates, I think, with men. So is that, you want to speak to that, or is that? Yeah,
I mean, guys, there's certain, I would say it's the minority. And again, if you're married to one of these individuals, I'm sorry, they can change. But it is, guys generally are not, most family men, are not by nature selfish. I mean, they're not, they want to give,
right.
They want to take care. They want to, provide a good life for their spouse and for their offspring. So that's really at the heart of it. What you're saying is, and so how am I going to do that if I have, starting when I'm in my 50s or 60s, even 40s, if I have poor health? I mean, how do I really accomplish that? Because what happens is, instead of focusing on those things, I now am so focused on my malady of my sore this, achy this, can't do that. And that is not conducive. Again, we keep using this term, legacy. What are we leaving behind? And when I say leaving behind, it's not that I'm dead and gone, but that aspect of my life, that section of my life, that season of my life, I've passed through it, right? And what am I leaving in that particular season? And unfortunately, if you're, the old adage, your health truly is your wealth. And, that's kind of a cliche statement, but it's so true.
Right.
And you can be so successful with whatever else, but if you don't have your health and you can't enjoy that, or you can't pass that, watch that wealth that you've accumulated and that you've built pass on to your offspring, kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, then it really diminishes the value of that legacy, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we're talking kind of about when one, spouse is trying to, or one partner, or, somebody in a relationship is trying to pull that other person along to get on the same page. And, how can we open up the dialogue for that conversation? And, asking questions. I think let's say if it's the woman that wants to make all the changes, which it usually will be, women are the main people that, like I said previously, do the grocery shopping, get all the things that run the household typically. And so if she's decided she was going to put everybody on a health kick and make changes, having that conversation from that perspective of speaking to legacy is important.
Why? And also, I would say one thing too, that some people are like cold turkey, like everything goes out of the deal.
It's an extreme.
I would think, and just for me, and this is a conversation that you have to have with your spouse, because you want to do this as a team. You're on the same team. We want the same thing. And this is why you have that conversation about legacy. What are we really wanting to leave behind for our family? What do we want to leave behind for our kids? What is that? What is that? We need to have a dialogue about that. We need to have a conversation.
Probably before you get married.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Let's be on the same page on the outset.
I always say to people, it's like, you're going along in your life and you hit 45 and you get this just aha moment, this piece of advice, and you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have had this 15 years ago. But guess what?
Didn't.
So what do? You just say, from this point forward, this is going to be it's going to be a new vision. It's going to be a new season, new mindset. But if you have that conversation, like we're just talking about, and then you say, you know what, let's agree on how gradually we're going to do this. Because again, I like it, I say this all the time, crawl, walk, run, right? I say this all the time in business. I say it with, decisions within businesses.
That's good
crawl,
advice.
walk, run. Yep. So we're going to get healthy. Okay, great. Let's lay out this quarter, and I'm another quarter guy. I like, Jack Welch's, do everything on a quarter, make a change on the quarter. So the end of the third month, the end of this.
Well, you can create lasting change when you do it that way, right?
Well, it's eating the elephant one bite at a time. Right. We could throw 100 different cliches out here, but it's true. It's really true. Do this in a manner where you have a conversation, you agree on kind of the end result, why we're doing this, and then start making and then agree on, well, here's what we're going to do. Let's talk about processed foods. Let's talk about processed desserts.
Yep.
Let's start
there. Yeah.
And that's because that's a huge one, because it's, processed desserts are, that you may as well just be giving poison.
Right.
Sugar is just poisoning. And so we're poisoning our kids.
Yeah.
Honey, would you like to poison the kids and the grandkids? Yeah. Not
today.
Not today. Yeah. Maybe yesterday.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe when they're 13.
Exactly.
Maybe.
That might be the time. No, and we laugh about it. But the fact of the matter is that's something that we could agree on. So, you know what? No ding-dongs, no Twinkies, no, whatever processed sugar types of stuff. Let's start there. And let's clean that out of our, and then you said it earlier, what are we going to replace that with? What kind of, because my sweet tooth is still there. How can I look for something that actually is, it satisfies that, sweet tooth, but it doesn't, it's not bad for
It's got ingredients in it that you can pronounce, the words. Yeah, and it's an important conversation too to have this, early on before, I think, children, because that addiction to those poor foods starts really young. So you try, and I've seen this actually, maybe it was on the Fed Up documentary or some similar, where the parent, this is something we were watching together, where the child had so much hyperactivity, ADD, all of these issues, and they finally figured out it was the sugar, and they were cold turkeying, and how that was devastating. It was almost like easier just to keep the kid on sugar kind of thing. So really important to kind of start these habits, a lot younger, without being too extreme to your point. But what if you're, 40 and now, your kids are teenagers and you guys are really set in your ways and you have your, how do you make those changes? Conversation. I love starting with the conversation like that. The last thing I kind of want to talk about, because.
Well, I will tell you, and I see this all the time, and I say this, gosh, I've said it 100 times. People want to change their lives. No. They just don't want to change their lives. Yeah. So they want a different result. They want to look better. They want to feel better. They want to engage better with their kids. They want to do better at work. They want, name it. But they don't want to change the things that are necessary in order to make that happen.
Right.
And that just has to be a really well thought concept from a standpoint of asking and answering the question, do I want to change? I was watching an interview the other day with a Hollywood A-lister that had gone through addiction issues. And if I mentioned his name, everyone would know him. And he made a really profound statement. He said he had gone through, the 12-step program several times, gone to different treatment centers. And he said, until you as an individual want to stop the addiction, you will never, you can go to every clinic, you can go to everything, but until you internally say, this is not something that I want to do, you'll change for a little while. You may even go a year sober or whatever. And it's the same thing in our lifestyles from a standpoint of eating better, eating, healthier, and then consistently exercising. Those two things. And, it's the old adage, we've heard it forever and ever, but it's never been more prevalent and more just right in front of our face.
Right.
I mean, just so relevant to see what is exactly happening with the way people are showing up to the doctor's office. Like, cancer rates are higher.
Right.
Heart attack rates are higher. All of these things.
All that. And, I just thought of something when we were saying this, because we're talking a lot about food and, in some extreme cases, not even extreme. I mean, I've done this. If you notice, we don't have plastic containers in our house, and you may not notice because you don't really.
I thought everything was in glass, right?
Everything's in glass, but it's not just ingesting food and certain drinks, but it's also what else are we ingesting?
Oh, sure.
Mentally, spiritually, what are we letting in, and can we agree on what we're watching together, what we're listening to together? Are we going to church together? Have we found a faith-based community that we enjoy together? So
are we serving together? Are we sowing
right.
into human beings in a positive way?
Right. And that's probably harder. That's a probably harder conversation to have as couples, because as the woman who's providing all the sustenance in the house, as far as like shopping and all that, I can control that narrative, but I can't make you get up and, go to a couples retreat with me, or a life group with me, or church with me, or so again, it's these conversations. And sometimes it's kind of goes full circle back to at a certain age or not even age. Now we know hormones are all over the place, no matter your age, but why is it hard to have this conversation, or why is this not important to me? I mean, because every human being at our core, we have a gift that we are designed to share with the world. We want to serve. That's our heart. That's our core, for the majority of people. So if I'm feeling like that's not something I really want to do, that's not natural either.
That's right.
So, having these kind of conversations together about what's important, I think that's the toughest thing.
Well, and you talk about, and I've seen you lecture physicians over the years and at different conferences on really mind, body, spirit, right? So we're talking about food, and we're talking about healthy lifestyle, and we're talking about the physical side of it, but there's a huge spiritual component to it. And when you recognize that, and when you really understand that, I think a lot of these things that we're talking about become less of a struggle. I'm not saying that they're still not hard. I'm not saying that they're still not issues that you have to deal with just doing them.
Right.
But men being men is something that I continue to see in society that is lacking. And it's almost like people have lost their understanding and their definition. I mean, here, we've got all this transgender stuff going, and we don't even know what the difference is between a male and a female, and all of these things that
confusion.
It's confusion. It's absolute confusion. So I think men getting back to the point of, we have a responsibility, guys. We have a responsibility to, as the head of the household, right? Of course, the neck that turns the head, but as it's often said, but we have roles to play. Like, I can't play her role; she can't play my role.
That's right.
God that's just out of God's design. So we have to look at it and go, okay, what am I doing as a man to lead? What am I doing as a man to set an example? What am I doing as a man to be proactive in helping facilitate change that is good for the family, that is good for my relationship? And I'm saying that, I would say there's probably some guys that are just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem. And again, none of the stuff that we're talking about really matters if you are not have your mindset, like I was just talking about, of I am committed to making a change, and I am going to do things differently. I am going to look at things differently. I am going to interact differently. And again, coming full circle, if you don't feel good because you've been eating processed sugar for the last 10 years, and you can't remember you think that eating your vegetables is French fries and ketchup. That's, again, you're going to have to really take a hard look in the mirror and say, am I, as a man being a man, am I being the leader of the household?
And as a woman,
area?
how am I supporting that?
Correct.
And vice versa, how are you supporting me being able to support?
Yeah, and even as I said that, I don't want to, again, we're teammates.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I would say to everyone out there too, is you got to have that team conversation. And when you can you know what? We are on the same team. We're not competing with each other. This idea that men and women compete against each other, that because of that dynamic, what happens is when you hear me talk about cleaning up our diet, going to the gym to exercise, going on a run, you don't have to go to the gym. There's plenty of things that we can do physically.
To be physical.
You hear that as you think you're better than me type of thing. And it's like,
no, I hear that as you think I'm fat. That's how women hear that. That's the filter.
So the point is on all that, not to get too deep into that, but I mean, we're not competing.
Right.
We're locked arm in arm, hand around each other, hand in hand. We're attacking this beast together, and together we're going to be successful. Divided we fall type of thing. Right. So anyway, I could go off on a tangent.
It's a good conversation. And so, just kind of to kind of wrap it up and pull it full circle, I think some of the takeaways from this dialogue, we could go down the feminine route. We could go down so many routes with it, but I really think
those are other episodes.
Those are other episodes for sure. And understanding the language, that we both kind of have a different language as males and females, and what that looks like, and respecting and honoring that, I think is kind of, we're losing that in our society. But I love the team concept. Ask questions. If you're if you're a woman trying to get your significant other, your spouse, your husband on the same page, your boyfriend, whatever, as you, from a health perspective, you've heard it from a male. Ask questions. What's important for us together as a couple? What's important for the legacy that you want to leave behind? And also for the guys out there, if the tables are turned, recognize that how women hear things, how we filter things that you might want, changes you might want to see in us, that we're on the same team, and it's not about, how you look or this, that, or the other. So really asking questions, honoring each other's gifts, honoring each other, and what are we here to do, and recognizing that we're not adversarial. And I think that's where so many relationships get so adversarial, because you stop talking. So we're on the same team. And with that, we will save the rest of the conversation for next time. Thank you so much for joining us today.